The Lockheed State Route 71 Blackbird was not simply an aircraft. It was a technological declaration of dominance at the height of the Cold War. When it officially entered service in 1966, the world was deeply divided between two superpowers locked in an ideological, military, and technological rivalry. The Soviet Union had invested heavily in layered air defense systems, long-range interceptors, and sophisticated surface-to-air missiles designed to protect its vast territory from intrusion. The United States responded not by trying to overpower these defenses through traditional means, but by rendering them ineffective through sheer engineering superiority. The State Route 71 was the embodiment of that strategy, an aircraft so fast, so high-flying, and so advanced that it could operate in one of the most heavily defended environments on Earth and return home unscathed. At the core of the Blackbird's legend was its extraordinary performance envelope. Capable of flying at speeds exceeding Mach 3, more than 3 times the speed of sound, it could surpass 3,500 kilometers per hour with relative stability. At altitudes approaching 80,000 feet, around 25,000 meters, it operated in the thin upper atmosphere, where few aircraft could even function effectively. Soviet interceptors struggled to reach those heights with sufficient speed and endurance to engage it. Surface-to-air missile systems, though formidable on paper, were often pushed to their operational limits, trying to track and strike an aircraft moving at such velocity. When radar locks occurred and missiles were launched, the SR-71's evasive tactic was almost astonishing in its simplicity: accelerate. Few weapon systems of the era could maintain effective pursuit against an aircraft designed to cruise at extreme supersonic speeds. Over the course of its operational history, missiles were fired at the State Route 71, but none succeeded in destroying one. This was not coincidence. It was the result of a deliberate American decision to engineer a platform that redefined survivability. The aircraft construction alone highlighted the vast technological investment behind it. Flying at Mach 3 generates tremendous aerodynamic heating. Friction with the air could raise surface temperatures to over 300 degrees Celsius, particularly around leading edges and engine inlets. Conventional aluminum airframes would have warped or failed under such stress. To solve this, American engineers turned to titanium, a material that was lightweight, exceptionally strong, and capable of withstanding extreme heat. At the time, working with titanium at scale was a monumental industrial challenge. New manufacturing processes had to be developed, specialized tools created, and supply chains engineered. In a striking irony of Cold War geopolitics, much of the raw titanium was covertly sourced through intermediaries from the Soviet Union itself. This logistical maneuver reflected not only engineering mastery, but strategic sophistication, turning the adversary's own resources into the foundation of a machine they could not defeat. The SR-71's propulsion system further illustrated American innovation. Its engines were not ordinary jet engines. They operated almost like hybrid turbojet ramjets at high speeds. As velocity increased, the engine's airflow dynamics changed, allowing it to become more efficient at extreme supersonic flight. The distinctive engine inlets were computer-controlled to manage shock waves, ensuring stable combustion even as the aircraft pushed the boundaries of atmospheric flight. This level of integration between aerodynamics, propulsion, and materials science was unprecedented. It required not only theoretical brilliance, but practical execution at the highest level of aerospace engineering. The Soviets fielded impressive aircraft and missile systems, yet matching this integrated technological ecosystem proved immensely difficult. In addition to speed and altitude, the State Route 71 incorporated early stealth principles. Its shape reduced radar reflection, and specialized materials helped diminish its detectability. While not invisible, it presented a smaller and more complex radar target than many contemporaries. Combined with its velocity and altitude, this reduced radar cross-section made accurate tracking and interception extraordinarily challenging. Long before stealth aircraft became mainstream, the State Route 71 demonstrated that survivability could be achieved through a combination of speed, design geometry, and electronic countermeasures. This multidimensional approach reflected a broader American philosophy: innovation layered upon innovation, creating systems that were more than the sum of their parts. The strategic value of the intelligence gathered by the Blackbird cannot be overstated. In a world defined by nuclear deterrence and mutual suspicion, accurate information was power. The State Route 71 conducted reconnaissance missions over some of the most sensitive regions on the planet, capturing high-resolution imagery of missile sites, military installations, and strategic infrastructure. This intelligence informed policy decisions, military planning, and diplomatic negotiations. In an era where miscalculation could lead to global catastrophe, the clarity provided by Blackbird missions contributed to stability by reducing uncertainty. It was a silent guardian of strategic awareness, operating in hostile skies, yet returning time and again without loss to enemy fire. The psychological impact of the State Route 71 was also significant. For the Soviet Union, knowing that an American aircraft could penetrate near its borders, evade its defenses, and depart at will was a reminder of technological gaps that were difficult to close. It symbolized the broader competition between the two superpowers, a competition not just of armies, but of laboratories, factories, and research institutions. The United States demonstrated that it could mobilize scientific knowledge, industrial capacity, and strategic planning into a single coherent system that delivered unmatched results. The Blackbird became more than a reconnaissance platform. It became a symbol of American aerospace leadership. Despite its unmatched capabilities, the State Route 71 was not inexpensive to operate. Its maintenance demands were extreme, its fuel specialized, and its missions resource-intensive. By the 1990s, satellite reconnaissance systems and unmanned aerial vehicles had advanced significantly, offering alternative methods of intelligence gathering at lower operational cost and risk. In 1998, the State Route 71 was officially retired. Yet even in retirement, its records for speed among manned, air-breathing jet aircraft remain unbroken. Decades later, no operational successor has fully replicated its combination of sustained Mach 3 flight, altitude performance, and survivability. Looking back, the State Route 71 stands as one of the clearest demonstrations of how technological innovation shaped the Cold War balance of power. While the Soviet Union built formidable defensive networks and capable interceptors, the United States responded with a platform that redefined what was possible in atmospheric flight. Beyond its raw performance and engineering brilliance, the State Route 71 also represented a radical shift in how wars could be fought without being fought at all. In the Cold War, information was often more powerful than firepower. Knowing where missile silos were located, how quickly they could be activated, and what infrastructure supported them meant the difference between deterrence and disaster. The State Route 71 gave the United States the ability to observe without escalating, to see without striking. It operated in a gray zone of strategic ambiguity, fast enough to avoid confrontation, high enough to avoid vulnerability, and advanced enough to avoid predictability. This ability fundamentally altered the strategic equation between Washington and Moscow. Unlike traditional reconnaissance aircraft that required fighter escorts or electronic jamming support, the State Route 71 operated independently. It did not need protection because it was its own protection. That independence was a testament to American aerospace doctrine at the time. Rather than building systems that relied on layered defense, the United States built a platform that transcended the threat environment entirely. Soviet radar operators might detect it. Missile batteries might launch at it. Interceptors might attempt to climb toward it. But the outcome rarely changed. The Blackbird completed its mission and returned home. Each successful sortie reinforced a perception of American technological superiority that extended beyond the aircraft itself. The development process behind the State Route 71 also reveals something deeper about the competitive spirit of the era. Created under extreme secrecy by Lockheed's Skunk Works division, the aircraft emerged from a culture that encouraged rapid innovation. unconventional problem-solving, and bold experimentation. Engineers were not simply improving an existing platform. They were redefining the limits of atmospheric flight. Every challenge required a breakthrough. New fuels that would not ignite prematurely under heat, new sealing systems to account for thermal expansion, new navigation systems capable of functioning accurately at unprecedented speeds. The aircraft even leaked fuel on the ground before takeoff because its titanium skin was designed to expand and seal at high temperatures during flight. What might have seemed like a flaw was actually an example of design thinking decades ahead of its time. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union pursued its own high-speed interceptors and air defense networks. Aircraft like the MiG-25 were developed specifically to counter high-altitude threats. Yet even these formidable machines struggled to match the SR-71's sustained speed and operational altitude. The technological gap was not absolute in every domain, but in the specific realm of sustained Mach 3 reconnaissance, the United States had carved out a distinct advantage. That advantage was not merely tactical. It was symbolic. It demonstrated that the American industrial base could produce systems that operated at the very edge of physics, and do so reliably. The Blackbird's engines deserve further emphasis as masterpieces of adaptive design. At lower speeds, they function like conventional turbojets. As velocity increased, more and more of the airflow bypassed the turbine core, effectively transforming the engine's behavior into that of a ramjet. This seamless transition allowed efficient propulsion across an enormous speed envelope. Managing shock waves within the engine inlets required precise control, and even small disturbances could cause violent compressor stalls. Pilots described the sensation of an unstart event as abrupt and forceful, yet the aircraft was engineered to survive and recover from such extreme aerodynamic phenomena. This interplay between risk and control embodied the cutting edge of aerospace science. Inside the cockpit, pilots operated in conditions closer to spaceflight than traditional aviation. At 80,000 feet, the sky darkened significantly, and the curvature of Earth became visible. Crew members wore full-pressure suits similar to those used by astronauts. In many ways, the State Route 71 bridged the gap between aircraft and spacecraft. It existed in a realm where atmospheric flight began to blur into near-space operations. This psychological dimension reinforced its mythos. It was not just flying over adversaries, it was flying above them in every sense. Another crucial factor in the SR-71's survivability was its mission planning. Routes were meticulously calculated to exploit weaknesses in radar coverage and minimize exposure windows. Electronic countermeasures further complicated tracking efforts. The aircraft's speed reduced reaction time for enemy defenses to mere minutes. By the time radar systems identified it, calculated its trajectory, and coordinated a response, the Blackbird was often already beyond effective engagement range. In warfare, reaction time is everything, and the State Route 71 compressed it to near impossibility for its adversaries. It is also important to understand the diplomatic implications of the aircraft's existence. The Cold War was characterized by constant brinkmanship, where both sides tested boundaries without crossing into direct conflict. The State Route 71 served as a controlled instrument of pressure. It gathered intelligence without firing a shot. It demonstrated capability without initiating escalation. In doing so, it reinforced deterrence. The message was subtle but clear. The United States could see, understand, and respond to developments anywhere on the globe with unmatched speed and precision. Critics sometimes argue that satellites eventually rendered the State Route 71 obsolete. While satellite reconnaissance indeed expanded dramatically in the late 20th century, satellites follow predictable orbital paths. They can be tracked, anticipated, and sometimes concealed from. The State Route 71, by contrast, could be redirected, retasked, and deployed dynamically. Its unpredictability was an asset. In scenarios requiring immediate intelligence updates, it provided flexibility that orbital systems could not